Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Scripture You Can Relate To podcast, how to make Scripture relevant to your everyday life. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. The Scripture You Can Relate To podcast is produced every Friday by Pastor Ricky Shear. For your convenience, you can download the show notes at www.scriptureyoucanrelateto.com. Come back often, and please add this podcast to your iTunes playlist. Now, let's get on to this week's episode.
1 Corinthians chapter 8 verse 9 says, "But take heed lest by any means this liberty of yours become a stumbling block to them that are weak." And in Matthew chapter 18 verse 6, Jesus gave a warning to the Pharisees and says, "If any of you put a stumbling block before one who believes in me." One of the favorite pastimes for young boys is horse playing. Putting each other in headlocks, punching them in the arm, making the muscle jump like a frog, and putting labels on their back that says, "Kick me." But of all the games and tricks all through life, no one in life would permit sticking your foot out to trip someone to make them fall. Teachers did not permit it, and parents did not allow it. Tripping was nothing to play with and has always been considered a dangerous thing to do. Tripping is so dangerous that all major sports have rules about tripping. Tripping is not allowed in baseball. Tripping is not allowed in soccer. Not allowed in baseball or lacrosse. And even in football, a game where men are paid to knock another person down, tripping is not allowed. Well, just as it is dangerous in all areas of life, the infraction of spiritual tripping and setting stumbling blocks is a dangerous infraction to commit. 1 Corinthians is Paul's first letter to the church at Corinth. He addresses several issues in the church that I call the big D's. He addressed division in the church, discipline in the church, doctrinal disputes in the church, divorces in the church, the dispensing of spiritual gifts to the church, and the distribution of financial gifts from the church. In chapter 8, verse 12, the Bible urges us to take heed of how we live because we may be causing someone else to trip, sometimes even unknowingly. And in Matthew chapter 18, verse 6, Jesus gave a warning to the wicked leaders who intentionally trip others, giving them a hard time, bullying them, taking advantage of their simple trust. He said it would not go unpunished. For those who do so will one day wish they hadn't. In that passage, we find an interesting word. The word translated as offense and stumbling block is the Greek word scandalion. It's where we get the English word scandalous. Someone who is characterized as scandalous is someone marked by flagrant violations of morality or laws. They are discreditable, dishonorable, and malicious, committing disgraceful, shocking, outrageous, monstrous criminal acts. They are wicked, sinful, shameful, atrocious, appalling, dreadful, deplorable, reprehensible, inexcusable, and intolerable. We can go on and on and on. The sad news is that we live in a time where people who have gained much wealth and power hide behind godly terms of fair trade, free enterprise, capitalism. They do this to rationalize and justify their scandalous behavior. But do not be discouraged. God said, rest assured that their scandalous behavior will not go unpunished. Well, before we point too many fingers, at the same time, Paul warns us all that there are also people who trip unintentionally. In other words, that just might be you. What we may think is a normal and legal lifestyle may be causing someone else to trip. Some churches are guilty of this. They get caught up in traditions. They lose focus of a purpose-driven ministry and unintentionally become stumbling blocks for many people, especially our younger generation, to come to Christ. So let us pay more attention to our walk, our talk. For tripping is dangerous, and in everyday life, we may be causing someone else to stumble. We could be the cause of an environment not being conducive to learning, to loving, to living, respecting, and worshiping the true and living God.
Well, that concludes this podcast. Our hope and prayer is that this podcast has been helpful to you and you will continue to reflect on it and begin to apply it to your life. For a transcript of this podcast and notes for a journal, visit www.scriptureyoucanrelate.com. Thank you.